What's up, everyone? My name is Danny GG, and today we have a very special collaboration with the one and only Arash. If you don't know him, Arash is an awesome Halo content creator, so make sure to go check out his channel right after this video.
Hello.
So today Arash and I are going to discuss what we expect to see in the April installment of Inside Infinite. And 343 has mentioned that this month will be about making Halo Infinite a true PC experience. So I actually think this update is going to be a lot juicier than people are thinking. Like, if you're not a PC player, you might have kind of turned your brain off to this. So I have Mr. Arash here with me because he is the Halo PC guy, and he tries out all sorts of mods, and he's always playing on his PC. I don't even think he has an Xbox anymore. So I brought him on the show to give us some insight into what he expects, because he is the PC man. So Arash, regarding the April update, what kinds of things do you think we're going to see?
Yeah, so I think it's going to be really important for 343 to talk about a handful of things when it comes to the Halo PC experience, especially after like MCC's been out for a couple years, and there's definitely been some aspects of MCC on PC that have been a letdown. So like I think the first and most important thing, which MCC has been doing better lately, but when it launched, it was pretty light, and that's just options. When you play games on PC, unlike on Xbox, which even these days on some of the newer consoles, you do get some of the different options in terms of like graphics and FPS and stuff like that. But when people play PC games, they really expect like a full menu full of different things that they can pick to really like tailor their experience to how they want it to be, whether they want to max out frames, whether they want the game to be really pretty, or however they want to do. So I expect 343 to touch on how, since Halo Infinite is going to be developed for PC along with Xbox, that this time around there's going to be a lot more features and stuff there on day one. Things like that we have gotten for the MCC, like double keybinds. That's something I expect and hope to see on day one with Halo Infinite, and not a year or two down the road, because that's one of those things that, like, when you play a PC game, you just expect to be able to rebind things and have two keys bound to the same action. But in MCC, until recently, that wasn't possible. Things like view model adjustments, which they delayed in MCC. I expect them to maybe talk about that, along with, all the other various things, graphic options, audio options, basically everything under the sun, right? Those are things that people who play PC games just expect, because that's like the whole benefit of playing on PC, is that you kind of give up some of the simplicity of playing on a console, but in turn you can really tailor that experience more to what you want. And so I think that's going to be one of the big ones. I do think a lot of people are going to expect 343 to touch on kind of mouse and keyboard versus controller. That's going to be a big one. I think that's going to be an ongoing debate. As much as I want to say, like, I believe in 343 to get it perfect, there's really no game that has that balance perfectly, but hopefully they can be closer than MCC currently is, where I would venture to guess 90 to 95% of people, especially in ranked, play with a controller and not mouse and keyboard. One thing that I actually think is pretty important, and I see people occasionally talk about it, but not as much, is so when most people kind of talk about mouse and keyboard versus controller, it's always aiming, and it's always controller having aim assist. And yes, that exists. Controller has aim assist. Some people think it's too strong. Some people think it's broken, etc., etc. We don't have to get into that. But I think one thing that less people touch on in Halo specifically is how bad actually the movement of Halo feels on mouse and keyboard for these old Halo games. And I think that's going to be a big thing that Halo Infinite has to make feel right. When you play Halo, or when you play a shooter on PC, you play Apex, you play Valorant, you even play like the modern Call of Duty games, when you're playing these
slide and stuff.
Yeah, there's all sorts of kind of changes to the core of the game that have been made to allow movement on a keyboard to feel better than, because when you're playing Halo on a controller, you have an analog stick, and so you have a full rotational direction, and you can push up a little bit to go slow. You can like hold all the way up to go full speed or whatever. These old Halo games, when you're playing them on mouse and keyboard, you hold W, you go full speed, and that's your only option. And so it makes trying to make specific movements like actually pretty difficult. Like if you need to hit a specific hard jump in Halo, it's a heck of a lot harder to hit on mouse and keyboard than it is on controller, where you can kind of finagle your way with the analog stick. And so I think that's going to be a big thing that 343 really needs to balance. A lot of people some people mention things like a lot of shooters like Apex and Valorant and Counter-Strike, they all have air strafing and air movement when you're in the air. I don't necessarily know if that's something that Halo would add, but they're going to have to try and find a way to make movement feel better on mouse and keyboard. Otherwise, I think we're going to be in the same boat where people complain about aim assist. That'll always happen, but you'll also just have the movement issues too. So that'll be a big one. I think another one is the UI on PC needs to be better this time around. Honestly, just the UI period. I don't think that's PC specific, but anyone that's played MCC kind of knows the UI for MCC is pretty poopy, especially if you're trying to play custom games. So on Xbox, the MCC custom games, you're locked at, I think, 50 maps, right? Unless they've raised that up.
I'm not sure.
I think it's 50. On PC, you can actually just like manually inject the files into your game, and it kind of reads them as if they were default maps. And so you can basically add in as many maps as your PC has room for. But what this leads to is just the world's worst UI, because there's no search bar and there's no like sorting other than you just scroll all the way through. Like, for example, on Reach, I have like 1,000 Forge World maps and you just have to scroll alphabetically from start to finish. So that's pretty bad. Another one,
the UI thing that you mentioned, that's just like a 343 thing in general, that there has not been a single 343 game with an actual good UI. Halo 5 is probably being the worst. You just, like there are over 200 armor sets and helmets, and it's the same thing. They're in the order you unlocked, which is random because of loot boxes, but that's a separate issue. But yeah, so they're in a nonsensical order with no way to sort them, and you just have to scroll infinitely, like you said with the Forge maps. But before we go into the next point, I just wanted to talk about, so earlier you said, oh shit, god damn my phone. Wasn't there a thing that, I don't know if someone tweeted this or they mentioned it, they said like mod support was coming to MCC sometime?
It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be? So maybe that could...
Yeah, 343 has been saying for a while they're going to give additional modding tools to MCC, because currently there's not like official modding tools. People have been kind of just like hacking at it, and they're really limited in what they can do with the current modding situation. And also, every time there's a major MCC update, it not completely, but 9 times out of 10 breaks all the mods, and so people have to spend a ton of time fixing them. And so modders have been really asking for additional mod support for MCC. And I think here's the thing. Do I want Infinite to have full-fledged modding support? Yeah. Do I actually think it's going to be there? I don't know. AAA games aren't necessarily known for their huge modding capabilities, other than like Skyrim and the Fallout series, So I think Cyberpunk is pretty open to modding, but I don't know if... I think it's a toss-up whether we actually get like full modding support for Infinite. I think it would be cool, because when you allow the community to mod your game and come up with things on their own, you get really, really cool content. Like just for Custom Edition alone, which is the PC port of Combat Evolved, right? There are handfuls upon handfuls of fully custom campaigns. Like they'll use bits and pieces of existing levels, but you'll have brand new levels. Some people even have like voiced cutscenes, and so there's all sorts of cool stuff that has been created because we had those tools. Whereas like in MCC currently, people that have made their own campaigns are mostly more along the lines of, hey, I edited these enemies, hey, I edited these guns, but it's not to the same scale, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think if they even hint at it, that, Infinite's going to have some kind of mod support, even if it's like super basic, I think that would be a game changing, that would be a headline in itself, like Halo Infinite to feature mod support, because we already know that there's going to be Forge, which is already the user content creation thing that gives the game life, but like mods is just an extra layer on top of that gives you like, millions more possible permutations, which is really, really cool. Like I still play Fallout 4. It's like, oh, I'm gonna play Fallout 4 and I'm just gonna install a bunch of new mods, and it's a completely different game. So
for sure, really cool. Yeah. I'm interested to see too, because Infinite's gonna be like this 10-year thing. So if they go along the route of giving us mod support, maybe they pull a Bethesda and they actually make some of these mods compatible on Xbox. I think that would be pretty huge for Halo's longevity, instead of only allowing PC users to experience mods, which is like where we're currently at.
Yeah. All right, Arash, so we're running out of time here. So to wrap it up, do you have any last minute hot takes or last things you'd like to cover?
Not too much. I mean, I think there's a good chance that in the blog, in the Inside Infinite post, they'll probably mention where you're going to be able to find Halo on PC. We've seen the Steam store, so it'll probably be on Steam. It'll probably be on the Microsoft Store.
Probably be on the App Store for your phone.
Yeah, maybe it'll be on the Epic Store. Maybe it'll be on like the defunct Origin,
the Switch, eShop.
Ooh, there you go. So I don't know. They'll probably touch it. You would think they'd probably touch on crossplay a little bit. So I don't know. That's probably my predictions for this Inside Infinite. There's nothing like too outlandish, I think, that you can really come out and say about Halo on PC, but maybe they'll throw something out there, or maybe they'll just give us a bunch of words.
All right, guys, well, make sure to comment your predictions for the Inside Infinite down below, and I'll be sure to read them all and come back after the update to see if we predicted them. So far, since January, February, March, we are 0 for 3 in predictions, so this has to be the month, right? Something like that. So what we think, something about mod support, something about mouse and keyboard balance, something about Steam and crossplay, and UI stuff. So that's all for today. I want to thank Arash for joining me. He's a great guy. Like I said, go check out his channel. He has 2 channels. One just hit 10,000 subscribers, so that is extremely epic. And his main channel is at 5,500 or something, so also extremely epic. But yes, thank you, Arash, and we will see you guys later.
For sure. Thanks for having me on. Peace.